What if I told you the only thing holding you back is the story you keep telling yourself? Your thoughts are not harmless. They are architects of your future. Most young people live inside a program they never chose. The question is, will you keep running it or will you rewrite it? From the moment you wake up in the morning, before your feet even touch the floor, a stream of thoughts begins to flow. For most people, those thoughts are the same ones they had yesterday, and the day before that, and even months before. This is because the brain is wired to be efficient, to repeat patterns it knows. And while this efficiency helps you drive a car or tie your shoes without thinking, it can also trap you in a cycle of limitation. When you think the same thoughts repeatedly, they produce the same feelings. Those feelings lead to the same choices. The same choices create the same behaviors, and those behaviors generate the same outcomes. Eventually, your life becomes nothing more than the predictable reflection of your thoughts. Now imagine this truth for a young person stepping into adulthood. The world is telling you who you are, what you can do, and how far you can go. If you accept those messages without question, your thoughts align with them, and you begin to live inside a box that you did not build. You might start to believe you are only capable of achieving what society says is possible, or only as valuable as the approval you get online, or only as successful as the grades written on a paper. But here is the reality. Every thought you generate is a signal. That signal is electrical, measurable, and powerful. Your body responds to it. Your brain rewires itself to match it. And over time, your external life begins to take shape according to that inner pattern. Think of your mind as both the architect and the construction worker of your reality. When you think a thought, the brain sends signals through the neural networks. These signals are like architectural drawings, blueprints of possibility. The longer you hold that thought, the more detail you add to the blueprint. Then, through the chemical responses of your body, those blueprints are given energy, as if construction workers were being deployed to build a structure. What structure are you building each day? For many, without even realizing it, they are building structures of limitation, structures of fear, structures of doubt, because their dominant thoughts are about what could go wrong, or what they are not capable of, or what others will think. But what happens when a young person realizes that their thoughts are not just reactions but creation tools? Suddenly, they are no longer the victim of circumstance. They are the author of circumstance. If you can hold the thought of possibility, if you can imagine yourself already living the life you desire, your brain doesn't know the difference between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced. Neurologically, it fires the same pathways. Biologically, it begins to signal the same chemicals. And soon, your body starts to feel like that reality is already unfolding. The key is not just to think randomly, but to think intentionally, to train the mind to focus on what you want rather than what you fear. Science has shown us that neurons that fire together wire together. If you consistently think empowering, expansive, and creative thoughts, the brain begins to physically rewire itself. Pathways of possibility become stronger. The mind becomes more efficient at producing those kinds of thoughts, just as it once was efficient at producing fear or doubt. It is like clearing a path in the forest. The first time you walk it, the grass is high and the trees are thick. But the more you walk that path, the clearer it becomes, until eventually it is a trail anyone can walk with ease. Your thoughts carve those trails into your brain, shaping the way you see reality. For young people, this is perhaps the most important understanding. You are not just thinking thoughts, you are programming your future. Every time you dwell on lack, you are programming limitation. Every time you think about failure, you are rehearsing it in advance. But every time you imagine yourself succeeding, feeling whole, creating something meaningful, you are rehearsing a different future. And the brain loves rehearsal. It builds connections faster and stronger when you mentally experience something over and over. Athletes know this when they visualize the perfect performance. Musicians know this when they mentally practice their craft. The truth is, every one of us is constantly rehearsing life in our mind. The only difference is whether we are rehearsing the life we want or the life we fear. Your thoughts are like seeds. If you plant seeds of doubt, you grow doubt. If you plant seeds of creativity, you grow creativity, and the soil is always fertile. Your subconscious mind doesn't reject the seeds, it simply grows whatever you plant. This is why awareness is crucial. You must become aware of the seeds you are planting every day, because those seeds will sprout into the reality you walk into tomorrow. Imagine walking through a field where every plant represented a thought you had in the past year. Would you see a lush garden of possibility or a tangled forest of fear and worry? That field is your life, and you are tending it whether you realize it or not. Young people today are surrounded by noise, social media feeds filled with comparison, news cycles filled with fear, voices filled with judgment. If you allow those inputs to dominate your thoughts, they will shape your reality. You will find yourself living someone else's blueprint instead of your own. But if you learn to pause, to direct your focus, to choose thoughts that align with the life you truly want, you can begin to shape a reality that is authentic to you. This doesn't mean ignoring the challenges of life, but it means refusing to let them dominate your inner world. You can acknowledge difficulty without rehearsing it over and over in your mind. You can face setbacks without turning them into your identity. And here lies the beauty of it all. When you begin to think new thoughts, even if they feel unfamiliar, your brain responds. It adapts, it rewires. It starts to reflect that new reality. At first, it may feel uncomfortable because the body is addicted to the old chemical patterns of stress, fear, or self-doubt. But if you persist, if you keep returning to the thoughts that inspire and empower you, the discomfort fades and a new normal emerges. That new normal is the self who believes in possibilities, the self who trusts in creativity, the self who knows they are shaping reality with every focused thought. Every young person is born into a world already shaped by history, culture, family, and environment. From the very first moments of life, the brain begins recording, taking in the sights, sounds, emotions, and behaviors of the world around it. These impressions sink deep into the subconscious, forming patterns that repeat again and again, often without our awareness. By the time you are in your teens, most of the beliefs, habits, and emotional responses you carry are not even truly yours. They are borrowed from your parents, teachers, peers, and society. This is what it means to live under the program of the past. It is like running software on a computer that you never chose to install, yet it dictates how every function operates. When you wake up each day and your mind immediately begins replaying the same memories, the same frustrations, and the same stories, you are not living in the present. You are reliving the past. The body, conditioned by repeated emotional experiences, doesn't know the difference between a memory of something that happened years ago and the stress of something happening in real time. It responds the same way. This is why many people find themselves anxious about the future or depressed about the past. They are locked into a cycle where the mind recalls the memory, the body produces the chemical emotion, and the emotion reinforces the memory. It becomes a feedback loop, a cycle of identity built from yesterday. Young people often wonder why change feels so difficult. They want to break free from procrastination, from insecurity, from fear, but no matter how much they consciously decide to change, they end up doing the same thing. The reason is that the conscious mind makes up only a small fraction of who you are, while the subconscious, the deeply ingrained program, controls most of your thoughts, choices, and actions. You can say to yourself 1,000 times that you will be confident, disciplined, or fearless, but if your subconscious is programmed with years of self-doubt and hesitation, the body will act out that program automatically. This is why so many people live the same year over and over again and call it a life. But awareness is the key. The moment you become aware that you are living from a program, you create the possibility of stepping outside it. Imagine standing on a stage, acting in a play you didn't audition for. You have been saying the lines, wearing the costume, playing the role for so long that you believe it is who you are. But one day, in a flash of awareness, you realize you are not the character, you are the actor. That realization alone gives you the power to walk off the stage and choose a new role. Breaking free from the program of the past requires this kind of awareness, the recognition that you are not your habits, not your emotional addictions, not your repetitive thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. The body often resists this shift because it has become chemically addicted to familiar emotions. If for years you have lived in stress, your cells have adapted to crave the chemicals of stress. If you have lived in guilt or shame, your body has become comfortable in that state, even if it feels painful to your conscious mind. When you try to step out of the program and think new thoughts or feel new emotions, the body will send signals of discomfort, urging you to return to what is familiar. This is why transformation feels so challenging. The old self is fighting to survive. Yet every time you resist the pull of the past and return your focus to the present moment, you weaken the old program and strengthen the new one. The past is not just a collection of memories, it is a pattern of identity. If you keep telling yourself the same story, about who hurt you, about how you failed, about why you are not good enough, you are literally anchoring your future to that story. The brain becomes a record of the past, and the body becomes the living proof of it. But when you interrupt that story, when you refuse to keep replaying it, something extraordinary happens. The energy that was bound to the past becomes available for the creation of the future. Instead of investing your attention in what has already been written, you can begin to write a new script. For a young person, this means learning to recognize the invisible influences of family narratives, societal expectations, and self-imposed limitations. Perhaps you are told you are not smart enough, or that success is only for certain kinds of people, or that failure defines your worth. These beliefs may not be spoken every day, but they linger in the subconscious, shaping the way you perceive yourself and the world. To break free, you must first see them clearly. Notice when your choices are driven by fear of repeating the past. Notice when your emotions are recycling an old story. Notice when your inner dialogue is echoing voices that are not truly your own. Once you see the program, you can begin to dismantle it. The present moment is the only place where this dismantling can occur. In the present, the past has no power unless you bring it with you. When you train your awareness to return again and again to now, you step outside the gravitational pull of memory. In that space, new possibilities emerge. The brain is no longer firing in the patterns of yesterday. The body is no longer producing the chemistry of old emotions, and the future is no longer a mere repetition of the past. This is not about rejecting your past or pretending it never happened. It is about no longer allowing it to dictate who you are becoming. Every memory is just information. You can choose to learn from it, but you don't have to live in it. The moment you detach your identity from the events of yesterday, you begin to create freedom. This freedom is not given by anyone outside you. It is generated within you by your ability to recognize and transcend the program that has been running unconsciously. Awareness is the key that unlocks the door to transformation. For young people, the challenge of life today is not simply about opportunity or intelligence. It is about attention. Everywhere you look, the world is competing for your awareness. Notifications buzz, videos autoplay, headlines flash, and the constant stream of information pulls your mind in 1,000 different directions. In this environment, presence has become rare, but presence is where power lies. When you are truly present, you are no longer trapped by the memories of the past or the anticipation of the future. You step into the only space where change can actually occur, the eternal now. The mind loves to wander. Research shows that for most people, their thoughts drift nearly half of the time. They replay conversations, imagine scenarios, worry about outcomes, or escape into fantasy. When the mind drifts in this way, awareness is lost. Life is happening in front of you, but you are somewhere else entirely. For young people, this wandering often takes the shape of comparison and distraction. They scroll through endless feeds, measuring their worth against curated images of others, while their own inner world becomes neglected. Without realizing it, they surrender their awareness to the external, and with it, they surrender their power to create from within. Presence is not simply paying attention. It is the art of observing without judgment. It is the capacity to notice your thoughts, your emotions, your body, and your environment, and to recognize them for what they are, temporary experiences moving through your awareness. When you are present, you see that you are not the thought of self-doubt. You are not the anxiety in your chest. You are not the story playing in your mind. You are the one who is aware of them. And the moment you realize this, you create space. In that space, you can choose how to respond instead of reacting automatically. For young people, this distinction is vital. Most of the stress and suffering they experience is not caused by the actual event in front of them, but by the mind's interpretation of it. A difficult exam is not inherently stressful. It is the thought I might fail and disappoint everyone that creates stress. A social rejection is not inherently devastating. It is the story I am not lovable that creates pain. Awareness gives you the power to see these thoughts and stories for what they are, mental constructs, not absolute truths. When you can observe them without attaching to them, they begin to lose their grip. The body follows the mind. When the mind is trapped in the past or future, the body lives in a constant state of survival. Stress hormones flood the system, the heart races, the muscles tighten, and the nervous system remains on alert. But when awareness returns to the present, the body relaxes, the chemistry shifts, healing begins, creativity awakens. This is why presence is not just a mental exercise, it is a physical transformation. Your body responds to where your awareness lies. If it is in the fear of tomorrow, the body prepares for danger. If it is in the memory of yesterday's pain, the body relives it. But if it is in the present, the body begins to align with peace and possibility. Awareness also reveals patterns that otherwise remain invisible. A young person may not notice that every time they feel bored, they reach for their phone. They may not notice that every time they feel insecure, they put on a mask of confidence. They may not notice that every time they fail, they immediately tell themselves a story about not being good enough. Without awareness, these patterns run automatically, like a script playing in the background. But the moment you become aware, the script pauses, and in that pause lies freedom. The freedom to choose a different thought, a different action, a different way of being. Presence also opens the door to intuition. When the noise of the mind quiets, a deeper intelligence can be felt. It is not the chatter of thought, but the calm knowing of awareness itself. For young people who are constantly pressured to make decisions about careers, relationships, and identity, this intuitive guidance can be invaluable. It does not come from comparing yourself to others or calculating every outcome. It comes from stillness, from being so fully present that you can feel the subtle pull of what is true for you. In presence, clarity arises naturally. To cultivate presence, one must practice returning again and again to awareness. It is not about forcing the mind to stop thinking. It is about noticing when it has wandered and gently bringing it back. Each time you do this, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. Over time, you become less identified with the whirlwind of thoughts and more grounded in the observer within. This is not something you achieve once and then hold forever. It is a lifelong practice, a daily returning, but every moment of presence carries power. Every moment you step out of distraction and into awareness, you reclaim energy that was scattered and direct it toward creation. The paradox is that presence is the most natural state of all. As children, we lived in it effortlessly. A child playing is not worried about tomorrow or haunted by yesterday. They are fully absorbed in the now. The challenge is not to learn presence, but to remember it. To strip away the layers of conditioning, distraction, and mental noise that cover it. When a young person rediscovers presence, they also rediscover joy, creativity, and a sense of connection to life that no external achievement can provide. If thoughts are the electrical signals of the brain, then emotions are the magnetic forces of the heart. Together, they create an electromagnetic field that extends beyond the body and influences not only how we feel inside, but also how we interact with the world around us. For a young person stepping into life's challenges and opportunities, this truth is essential. Your emotions are not just reactions to what has happened. They are signals that attract and align you with what is yet to come. Emotions are the language of the future, and the quality of your emotions determines the quality of the reality you are moving toward. Most people believe they need an event to happen before they can feel a certain way. They think they must get the job before they feel successful, meet the partner before they feel loved, or achieve the goal before they feel fulfilled. But this way of living keeps you trapped in waiting. You postpone your joy until conditions are perfect. The truth is that you do not have to wait for the external to change in order to feel differently inside. The body and brain are so interconnected that if you can generate the emotion of your desired future right now, your physiology responds as if that future were already here. In other words, when you begin to feel the emotion of success, of love, of freedom before the event has occurred, you are rehearsing that future into existence. Think about gratitude for a moment. Gratitude is not something you feel only after receiving something. It is an elevated emotion that you can cultivate in advance. When you feel gratitude for a future that has not yet happened, you are signaling to your brain and body that it is already real. Your nervous system begins to fire in new patterns. Your body begins to release chemicals that match that state. You are no longer waiting for life to give you a reason to feel grateful. You are teaching your body what that future feels like, and the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Over time, the brain and body no longer differentiate between the future event and the emotion you are generating in the present. This is why emotions are so powerful. They are not just fleeting moods that come and go. They are anchors of reality. When you repeatedly feel the same emotions, your body memorizes them. It learns to live in that state automatically. Many young people unknowingly train their bodies to live in stress, insecurity, or fear. They wake up each day, recall the challenges they face, and the body immediately produces the same emotions. Those emotions then become addictive because the cells of the body crave the chemical signature of what is familiar. Even though the mind may want change, the body is pulling them back into the emotional past. To change your future, you must change the emotions you live in daily. If you want to step into a reality of opportunity, creation, and fulfillment, you cannot do it from the emotional state of fear and doubt. You must practice the emotions of that future now. Begin to feel what it would be like to live your dream before it arrives. Imagine waking up each morning already feeling inspired, already feeling free, already feeling in love with life. As you cultivate those emotions, you are sending out signals to the world, and at the same time you are rewiring your inner world. The brain is building new connections that support this state, and the body is becoming conditioned to this new emotional environment. It is not enough to think positively if your emotions contradict those thoughts. You can think about success all you want, but if you feel unworthy inside, the emotion will override the thought. This is why so many people struggle with affirmations. They say the words, but the emotions they carry are still rooted in the past. True change happens when thought and emotion align, when the vision of the mind is matched by the feeling of the heart. That alignment creates coherence, and coherence is a powerful force. It broadcasts a clear signal into the field of possibility, drawing experiences that match it. Consider love. Many young people chase relationships, hoping someone else will make them feel whole. Yet wholeness cannot be found outside until it is cultivated inside. If you begin to feel the emotion of love before anyone arrives, you signal to your body that you are already complete. You are no longer searching for someone to fill a void. You are radiating the very emotion you wish to experience, and life responds to that frequency. Opportunities, connections, and relationships that resonate with that state begin to show up, not because you chased them, but because you became aligned with them emotionally. This principle applies to every area of life. If you want creativity, practice the emotion of inspiration. If you want abundance, practice the emotion of generosity and gratitude. If you want freedom, practice the emotion of joy and lightness. You cannot create a new future from the emotions of the past. You must become emotionally acquainted with the future you desire before it happens. By doing this, you are teaching your body to live as if the event has already occurred, and the more familiar you become with that emotional state, the less you will be waiting for the future to change you. Instead, you will be the one changing your future. Presence and awareness give you access to these elevated emotions. When you are distracted, when you are stuck in the past or worried about the future, your emotions remain tied to survival. But when you center yourself in the present moment and choose to feel differently, you begin to access higher states of being. These emotions not only transform your inner world, but also influence your outer reality. They affect how you speak, how you act, how you see possibilities. And over time, they draw experiences that confirm the state you have been rehearsing. From a young age, every person begins to build an identity. That identity is shaped by parents, teachers, peers, and the culture that surrounds them. It is constructed from names, roles, achievements, and failures. You are told that you are a student, an athlete, an artist, or perhaps you are told you are shy, intelligent, lazy, gifted, or difficult. Layer upon layer, these labels accumulate until they feel like the definition of who you are. But the truth is, identity is not the core of your being. It is the mask you have learned to wear. Beneath that mask lies something far greater, something limitless, something that cannot be contained by the roles you play or the circumstances you inherit. Many young people spend their lives trying to defend, polish, and protect this identity. They attach themselves to their grades, to their followers online, to the approval of others, and to the roles they perform. When they succeed, they feel worthy, and when they fail, they feel diminished. But this fragile sense of self is not who they really are. It is simply the costume they wear while playing on the stage of life, and the danger of mistaking the costume for the self is that it keeps you confined to a narrow box. You begin to believe you are only as capable as the story of your identity allows. The deeper truth is that you are consciousness itself, an awareness that is vast, boundless, and unchanging. This awareness existed before the identity was built and remains even as the identity shifts throughout life. Think about it. When you were a child, you had one sense of identity. As a teenager, it shifted again. As an adult, it will change once more. And yet through all of these transitions, there has always been a part of you that observes, a constant presence that notices the shifts but is not defined by them. That is your true self, and it is limitless. When you become trapped in identity, you live within boundaries. You might say, I am shy, so I cannot speak in public. Or I am not creative, so I cannot build something new. Or I am broken because of what happened to me. These statements create walls, and within those walls you live as though your potential is capped. But when you recognize that these are just stories, just roles that the mind has accepted, the walls begin to dissolve. You realize you are not the label, you are the awareness that has been carrying it, and as awareness you are not bound by any single story. Young people often confuse potential with performance. They think that because they have failed in the past, they are destined to fail again. They think that because they do not see immediate evidence of greatness, it must not exist within them. But potential is not measured by what has already happened. It is the infinite capacity of consciousness itself. Just as a seed carries within it the blueprint of an entire tree, each person carries within them infinite possibilities waiting to unfold. The only limitation is the belief in limitation. Consider how identity forms through repetition. If you are told again and again that you are a certain way, or if you repeat certain behaviors enough times, you begin to believe that is all you can ever be. But identity is not fixed, it is fluid. At any moment, you can step outside of the old definitions and embrace a new way of being. The reason it feels so difficult is because the body and brain are addicted to the familiar patterns of the old self. The mind says, "This is who I am," and the body feels safe in that repetition, even if it is painful. But the moment you begin to question it, the moment you see that it is only a construct, you open the door to freedom. Limitlessness means stepping beyond the self you have memorized. It means realizing that you are not your grades, your social standing, your bank account, or your past experiences. You are not the opinions of others, and you are not even the voice in your own head that tells you what you can or cannot do. You are the awareness behind all of that, and awareness has no ceiling. When you learn to identify with that awareness instead of the roles you play, you begin to access levels of creativity, courage, and inspiration that seemed impossible before. The power of being limitless lies in your ability to imagine and embody futures that your current identity cannot comprehend. The self that says, "I am shy," cannot imagine confidently leading others. The self that says, "I am broken," cannot imagine feeling whole. But the awareness beyond identity can. It can hold a vision of the future self and feel it so deeply that the body and brain begin to align with it. Over time, the old identity dissolves and a new one emerges, shaped not by the past, but by the vision of what is possible. This is why it is so important for young people to understand that failure, rejection, and mistakes are not permanent definitions of who they are. They are temporary experiences along the journey of becoming. The identity built from those experiences is malleable, and if it no longer serves, it can be released. Beyond the self that stumbles or doubts, there is always the deeper awareness that watches, learns, and grows. That awareness is never damaged, never diminished, never confined. It remains whole no matter what the outer identity goes through. To live from this awareness is to live without boundaries. It means you can reinvent yourself as many times as needed. You can explore, create, and expand without fear of being trapped in one version of you. Every time you remember that you are not the identity but the consciousness behind it, you reclaim power. You are no longer confined to the old definitions. You become free to express the limitless nature of who you truly are. The advice young people need to hear is not just about working harder, chasing success, or fitting into a mold that the world has designed for them. It is about waking up to the truth of who they are and the power that lives within them. Your thoughts are not random. They are the blueprint of your future. If you learn to think differently, you begin to live differently. But thinking alone is not enough. You must also break free from the old program of the past, the unconscious habits and stories that keep you repeating yesterday's reality. When you step into presence, you reclaim your awareness. You are no longer dragged around by distractions, fears, or comparisons. You begin to see life as it is happening right now, and in that awareness you gain the power to choose. And when you combine that presence with elevated emotions, gratitude, love, inspiration, you begin to speak the language of the future. You are no longer waiting for life to give you reasons to feel alive. You are generating those reasons from within. Above all, you must remember that you are more than the identity you've been taught to carry. You are not your failures, not your grades, not your past mistakes. You are awareness itself, limitless and unbounded, capable of creating futures far greater than anything your current self can imagine. Every moment you choose to think a new thought, to feel a new emotion, to step into presence, you are rewriting the story of who you are becoming. This is the invitation for every young person, to rise above the noise, to step beyond the limits of identity, and to live as creators of their own destiny. The future does not belong to those who wait for it. It belongs to those who have the courage to imagine it, feel it, and embody it today.